On December 4th, 1872, the crew of the British merchant ship Dei Gratia spotted a vessel drifting through the open Atlantic. Through a telescope, the captain watched it yawing, swinging back and forth in the wind, with its sails in disarray and no one at the helm. When a small boarding party reached the American brigantine Mary Celeste, they found it entirely abandoned. The main hatch was securely closed, the cargo hold was intact, and food sat on the table as if prepared for a meal that never happened. Personal belongings remained in the cabins. Clothing, boots, a sewing machine, and scattered children's toys were all untouched. Yet the ship's only lifeboat, a small wooden yawl, was missing. 10 people had been on board. That included 7 experienced sailors, Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter. All 10 had vanished without a trace. There was no blood and no sign of a struggle. The Mary Celeste was seaworthy and fully provisioned, making the empty deck more unsettling than any violent crime scene. The lack of immediate answers led to a century of urban legends that clouded the formal investigation. In 1884, a young Arthur Conan Doyle published a fictionalized account of the ship. His story introduced vivid details, like half-eaten breakfasts and warm pots on the stove, that were so widely read they became confused with the actual historical record. The real evidence was far less domestic. There were no warm meals or sleeping cats mentioned in the investigative logs, only the cold reality of a deserted vessel. Stripping away the fiction forces us to confront a more difficult truth. A highly experienced crew made a deliberate choice to abandon a perfectly sound ship. The ship's inventory reveals what was prioritized. The sextant, required for calculating latitude, was missing. The marine chronometer was also gone. These were not grabbed in a blind panic. They were the essential tools for maritime survival. The ship's logbook confirms when human activity stopped. The final entry is dated November 25th, 9 days before the Dei Gratia found her. At that time, she was 6 miles north of the Azores. When spotted again, she had drifted 400 miles east. For over a week, the Mary Celeste navigated the Atlantic entirely alone, pushed forward only by wind and currents. This sequence of events excludes the possibility of the crew being swept overboard. They had packed their survival tools and stepped off the deck, leaving us to look for the invisible threat that forced their hand. During the official inquiry in Gibraltar, Attorney General Solly Flood initially suspected a conspiracy between the 2 crews to commit murder and claim salvage money. However, the ship was carrying $35,000 worth of commercial alcohol, and the personal valuables in the cabins were untouched. These facts effectively eliminated piracy as a motive. Mutiny was equally unlikely. Captain Briggs was a shareholder in the vessel with a reputation for discipline, and the crew's records were impeccable. With criminal intent ruled out by the forensic evidence, the investigation stalled. Every traditional motive had been dismantled, leaving only the possibility of a catastrophic environmental trigger. Deep in the cargo hold, inspectors found a technical anomaly. Among the 1,701 barrels of alcohol, 9 were completely empty, and unlike the others, these 9 were made of porous red oak. As the alcohol leaked, it evaporated and pooled in the unventilated hold, creating a highly volatile, invisible gas. A spark could have triggered a burst of expanding gas, an explosion that blew the hatches open but extinguished itself instantly, leaving no burn marks. To Captain Briggs, it would have appeared the ship was about to explode. He likely ordered everyone into the small yawl, tethered to the main ship by a rope, to wait for the danger to pass. If the tow rope snapped in the heavy November weather, the crew would be left in an overloaded rowboat, watching as their perfectly safe vessel sailed away without them. The ship itself survived another 13 years, but her reputation was ruined. She changed hands 17 times as owners struggled to keep a crew on a vessel known as a ghost ship. In 1885, her final owners deliberately ran her aground on a Haitian reef in an attempt at insurance fraud. The physical ship was destroyed by greed, but the psychological impact of her disappearance only became more entrenched in history. This specific case persists because it offers no resolution. The human brain naturally recoils from an absence of explanation. Most shipwrecks eventually offer wreckage or survivors that point to a definitive cause. The Mary Celeste offered only a seaworthy vessel and an empty deck. 10 people stepped off a sound ship and were never seen again. The Mary Celeste remained